Hello and welcome to Euphoria. On this YouTube channel you'll find updates on my Lego city with its modular buildings, squares and little details, as well as videos on other Lego topics such as builds, ideas and techniques, and my own designs. In this current video series we're busy modifying the Sanctum Sanctorum building from the Lego set from 2022 to improve its suitability for my Lego city. We're going to carry straight on from the previous episode in which we modified the ground floor, and in this episode we'll be making changes to the first floor of the building. I really like this building, and as a traditional style city mansion I think it easily deserves a place in my Lego city. But I'm changing it so that it isn't specifically the Sanctum Sanctorum building that you find in the Marvel universe, and it will become an ordinary city building in the style of a classical mansion house. I had previously made some small changes to the set to suit its context in the city, and in the previous video in this series we made some changes to the way the ground floor of the building is built. We removed the strange portal thing in the back wall, we removed an internal wall and installed a door from the corridor at the rear to provide access to the main hallway on the ground floor. We also changed the way that the staircase works so that it has an extra couple of stairs before the landing leading to the upper floor. Now we're going to change the first floor. The main thing to do with this floor is to split it into two separate floors. And there will be other changes to the structure and facade of this level of the building. As I've explained in a previous video in this series, this building has a strange mismatch of scales between the outside and the inside. On the outside it appears to be two separate floors with two layers of windows, but on the inside it's one very tall floor. So the main intention of these changes is to split this one tall floor into a separate first floor and second floor, each with one row of windows. That means actually making the second floor of the building as a separate floor and moving the second row of windows into that floor. That might make the building a bit taller, hopefully without destroying the proportions completely, and it would give a lot more internal space to the building. The two floors can then be treated as individual and separable floors in the style of most modular buildings. We'll also need to change things round a bit to take account of the changed staircase in the main entrance hall, and we'll need a new staircase to get between the two new levels that we're going to create. There will also be some other changes to the facade and external walls of the building. We'll be removing this changeable panel, which we don't need, and we'll be making this into a plain side wall. Some other features will also have to change or go, such as the magic door with different destinations behind it. I know that these changes remove some of the play features of the set, but I feel they aren't needed on a set that doesn't try to represent the weird things going on in the Marvel Universe. I did try modelling some of the changes I want to make in the Studio Design app to see what might be possible, but I didn't design all of it because I wasn't sure what changes were going to be made to the ground floor. So quite a lot of this build will be trial and error, and we'll have to see how we get on as we go along. So let's make a start with the changes for this level of the building. We're going to start these changes by changing the floor plate. We saw in the last episode that changing the staircase on the ground floor requires a change in the floor plate of the first floor, and we mocked up an example to check that the stairs would work. To make similar changes to this first floor means cutting out a bit of the floor plate here. That means making changes to the plates that make up the floor and the supporting plates underneath, to produce something more like the floor plate we mocked up in the last episode. We have to remove the door and the bookcases and shelves along the back wall, which requires a bit of dismantling as they are attached in places to the wall. I'm hoping we can reuse the bookcases and all the artifacts on top of the bookcases later on in the build. That means changing out some of the back wall, and we can also remove these air conditioning units that act as handles for the sliding panels. We can rebuild this back wall later. Now we can adjust the floor plate itself to fit with the changed staircase. On the right hand side, I'm making the floor slightly wider. That will give a little more space for minifigs to move around on this level of the building. Some of the structure proved a bit delicate when taking the floor plate away and fitting the new one, especially the clever build of the angled corner, but with some care it all went back together again. Now on the left hand side we're going to change things so that there's an additional staircase up to the next level of the building. If we can, we'll use one of these standard staircase pieces. Putting it against this side wall means that it can use the wall for support and won't block any windows. It can go this way round so that minifigs turning left at the top of the main staircase can continue up this new staircase to the second floor. I'll fit the staircase in properly later, but for now that's the new floor plate completed. Now we'll look at splitting this floor into two. One of the main objectives of this rebuild is to split this very tall first floor story into two separate stories that will be the first floor and the second floor. this first floor is currently 10 bricks high, which is very high for the upper story of a modular building. I expect it to be more like 6, 7 or 8 bricks high. So to split this, we need to separate the top few layers of bricks and the top layer of windows, so that we're left with the bottom half of the wall and the bottom row of windows. I tried very hard to keep the walls intact while I was fitting the new floor plate, but now I'm going to change them all. I won't be surprised if it all falls apart and needs to be rebuilt. First, we'll have to remove these columns, which are kind of attached to the side of the wall and aren't really structural. Now I can try to separate the top layers with some precision surgery here. So that's split the top and bottom half, and this is the basis of the new first floor. Now we have to work out how to make this lower part into a complete story for the building. The remnants of the top part of the wall will go towards building the new second floor, which we'll come to later. Now obviously these walls aren't high enough, they're only about 5 bricks high, so we need to add a couple of layers of bricks to bring it up to the 6 or 7 that we want. But there are a few things still to work out before we rebuild the facade. The first thing is to look at some changes I want to make to the windows. These rather small windows contribute to the building looking a bit squashed, so now we have the opportunity to fix that. We can make the windows a bit higher by using 1 by 2 by 3 windows, as well as the existing 1 by 2 by 2 windows. We might even be able to use 2 1 by 2 by 3 windows on top of each other, making the windows 6 studs high, which is the same height as a normal door. There isn't really enough room to make them any wider if we're going to keep the columns and the alignment with the ground floor windows, so I'll stick with these windows that are 2 studs wide. Now I like the idea of these railings representing Juliet balconies at the bottom of the top row of windows, so we're going to add them to the windows on this first floor as well, so that the windows on the 2 floors are more consistent. But we're going to change the way the railings work slightly. I don't really like the way they're implemented in the set. That's because they're just attached by 1 stud at the bottom, and that doesn't hold them straight very well. So we'll attach these railings with a bracket instead of bricks with a stud on the side. So this is what the new window construction looks like. Now we're going to look at the new height of the walls in relation to some other factors. We've seen that with the taller windows we need walls that are a bit higher. The columns will need to change so that they're the right height for the new walls. I quite like the way they're built in the set, using tiles, plates and brackets, but it does mean there are limited combinations of heights that will work. So we'll keep that method of construction but make them a bit longer, which will be consistent with the new height of the walls. I had a go at working out some options, bearing in mind the likely height of the walls. We also need to match the stairs to the height of the walls, or vice versa. So I ended up with a column using a 1x8 tile and some other parts to give me a height of exactly 8 bricks. This is what the new columns look like. They have a small base at the bottom as well as the simplified capital at the top. Now we know the height of the walls, we can place the windows and build up the walls around them accordingly. The new columns clip on to some strategically placed bricks with a stud on the side. Now on the side of the building here, I don't really know why there are so many columns, except that 2 of them support the fancy pediment over the end window, which has ended up in the top half of the floor. I like the design of it, but it seems a bit misplaced just over this window at the end, which isn't that important. So we're going to simplify this end wall slightly and just have one column in the middle about here. We're also going to make a minor change to the position of the columns for the front facade. As I remarked in the review of this set, I don't like the inconsistent spacing between the columns and the windows in the facade. Some columns are right next to the windows, some are half a brick away, and some are 1 brick away. I can't fix all of that, but I can improve it for these 2 columns in the centre. So we're going to move these columns out by half a stud so that there's only half a brick between them and the adjacent windows, the same as for the 2 columns either side. That might give us a challenge further up the building, but we'll have to deal with that in a later episode. Now we need to look at adding the new staircase. The standard open staircase element we're using has 6 stairs, each 1 brick high. If the height of the walls is going to be 8 bricks, then we need an additional 2 stairs. Now we have to bear in mind that the 8 bricks of height will be made of 7 bricks, 2 plates, and the layer of tiles at the top of the walls, which will allow the levels of the building to be separated. So we can extend the staircase by one stair, and then the top step will be made of plates and tiles at the same level as the tiling separation layer between this floor and the one above. That will attach the staircase to the walls at the top corner here, but we can't really finalise that until we've rebuilt the walls. So now let's rebuild the walls. We'll use as many of the original bricks as possible, but this does require more bricks than in the original set, but fortunately I do have some in the right colours. Round the back we don't need those slots for the movable panels behind the portal, and at the side we don't need a big hole for the changeable panel. We'll rebuild the walls and fill in those gaps in the same style as the original walls, with a mixture of masonry profile bricks and plain bricks, with medium nougat for the front and side facades, and including some light bluish grey bricks at the back. I'm also adding in a point of support from the wall in the middle of the staircase, and it's surprising how much that attachment stabilises the structure. Once the walls reach the top, I can add in the top step of the staircase using plates, and that also ties the top of the staircase into the structure of the wall. I'm not sure what to do with the round window at the front. It's a clever bit of design and it looked okay with the shorter windows, but now I think it looks a bit lost and out of scale. I tried adjusting its position and layout, but I'm still not sure it looks right here. So we're replacing it with a simpler square window that looks more in keeping with the other windows and the new style of the building. Here I'm adding a layer of bricks in a different colour, in this case tan, to pick up the colour of the windows. Dealing with the angled corner is a bit tricky. I can use the same basic geometry as in the original set, but attach the new window in a slightly different way. I'm building it without the angled shelf that was in the original build, and I think this opens up the corner a bit. Now I've decided that I don't like the layer of different coloured bricks. It starts to look like a separation line between floors again, so I've decided to remove it again. And finally we can add the layer of tiles and a few location studs at the top of the walls that will allow this section of the building to be separated from the one above. Now we can finish off this level of the building by detailing the interior. A proper minifig scale banister has more chance of preventing minifigs falling over the edge. Despite increasing the floor space, there's still not that much room on this floor because of the double height atrium for the main staircase. But there's still plenty of room for the two red armchairs, the reading lamp, and the table with the important beer on it. There isn't room for both of the bookcases that were originally here. Because of the changes of layout, we've used that space for circulation, but I think there is room for one of them in this corner. The shelving unit recovered from this floor can be made into a slightly taller unit, and we can put it on the end of the floor here. Although it's in front of a window, I think it's okay because it's fairly open, and in fact it was in front of the corner window before, so it should be okay here. On the other side of the floor we have the staircase to the next floor, so there's not much room here, but it is worth adding a railing to the staircase, again for the safety of our minifigs. That's made using some bars and clips, although I need to get the right colour for one of the pieces. So that completes the modifications to the first floor of this building. We adjusted the floor plate, managed to split the floor into two without completely wrecking it, changed up the windows to make them bigger, worked out what height to make the walls so that they could work with new columns and an internal staircase, added the new staircase, then completed rebuilding the walls and added back some detail to the interior. When we started, I wasn't sure whether it would work out, but now I'm pretty happy with the way this mod is going. So it took quite a lot more adjusting than I had perhaps originally thought, although it was never going to be completely straightforward, and I think it's worked out pretty well. I suppose we ought to check that it fits with the ground floor that we modified in the previous episode. Yes, that fits all the way round. And on the inside, the staircase all joins up so that this floor is accessible from the ground floor, and the staircase continues the journey upwards to the next level of the building. In the next episode, we'll tackle the creation of a brand new second floor for the building. The idea was to make it from the upper half of the original floor, and while there are quite a few bricks left over, they're not going to be the ones we need to build a whole other floor of the building. So we'll need to get some more bricks, and that will require a bit of planning and ordering. There will no doubt be some more challenges with the next stage of this build, but I think having completed the ground floor and now this floor, it should be possible to address the main goal of this conversion to split the strange middle floor of the building into two separate floors. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the modification of this building as we work out the changes stage by stage. So in the next video in this series, we'll be looking at creating a proper and separate second floor for the building, including a structure that fits in with the rest of this building and extends it in a hopefully pleasing and coherent way. So look out for that video coming up. Please press the like button if you liked this video. Hit the bell to be notified of any updates. Look out for videos about these modifications and subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more videos about this project, other MOCs and further developments in my LEGO city.